Outside of Time Episode 5. In the previous episode, Xu Qing pushed his body to the limit as he escaped through the night, fighting against the burning poison lingering in his lungs. Trusting in the mysterious purple crystal's healing power, he chose to take Fat Mountain's deadly mist head-on, ending the battle with a single decisive strike. After returning to Captain Lei's courtyard, he finally expelled the black, sizzling blood and recovered his strength. Sorting through the belongings of Horse 4 and Fat Mountain, Xu Qing uncovered a strange metal plate and a cracked amber, items with unknown origins that hinted at secrets far beyond ordinary scavengers. After a full day of cultivation, his senses sharpened just as Captain Lei called him outside, where a large table and empty seats suggested a gathering was about to begin. At the end of the previous episode, a towering figure, muscular and imposing like a walking mountain, appeared in the dim night, stepping toward the courtyard with a massive shield on his back and a heavy mace in hand. What will happen next? Stay tuned. And the story continues. The thumping sound resounded with every fall of his step, coming closer until he was outside the bamboo gate. When the bamboo gate was pushed aside, the shocking stature of a large man stepped into the courtyard. The courtyard seemed to shrink slightly under his presence. His towering silhouette radiated a force that made the very air feel heavy. Xu Qing, standing not far away, felt a tightening in his chest, as though he were facing a monstrous beast in the ruins of a forgotten city. His pupils contracted instinctively at the imposing sight before him. "Leader, I am back," the large man greeted, his deep voice muffled by the distance. Yet, the moment his gaze fell upon the food laid out on the table, his expression shifted. A flicker of interest lit up his eyes. With a casual gesture, he tossed aside his massive shield, letting it clatter to the ground, followed by his heavy mace. Then, without hesitation, he seated himself on the chair. The chair groaned alarmingly under his weight, the sound sending an echo through the quiet courtyard. Throughout all this, he did not spare Xu Qing a glance, as if the young man were entirely insignificant in his presence. Captain Lei only chuckled quietly, making no remarks, while Xu Qing's eyes could not help but wander to the discarded shield and mace. From their appearance and the sound they made when they landed, Xu Qing could roughly gauge their weight. It must far surpass the weight of the large man himself. The sheer force behind these weapons was frightening. Shortly after, the silence was broken by the approach of two more figures. First came a young man, carrying a longbow strapped across his back. His posture was tall and straight, but the most striking feature on his face was a scar shaped like a cross, as if forcibly carved. The ghastly mark did nothing to dull the sharp intensity of his gaze, which seemed to pierce straight through Xu Qing. Following him was a woman, likely around 30 years old, wearing tight leather clothing that clung to her form. Despite her seemingly ordinary face, her confident figure emitted a raw, magnetic allure, a primeval charm that was hard to ignore. They both acknowledged Captain Lei with a casual greeting and took their seats. The young archer, however, could not resist examining Xu Qing with a subtle, appraising glance. The woman, meanwhile, leaned slightly forward, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. Her tone carried a hint of playful teasing as she spoke. "Leader, we were only out for a trip. How did you gain an extra child? You are old but strong." "Huh? Don't tell me the reason you called us here today is just to announce that you have a secret offspring?" The burly man merely muttered. "The age is not right." Ignoring her jest, Xu Qing did not speak, though his body shifted slightly to allow a smooth retrieval of the dagger strapped to his left calf. A tinge of unease crawled up his spine. All three newcomers radiated a strength that made him instinctively cautious. They were far stronger than Fat Mountain from the previous day, especially the archer, whose presence made Xu Qing feel a subtle, persistent prickling across his back. Captain Lei wasted no time on the playful banter. He gestured to the three newcomers. Barbaric ghost, 3rd level of body refinement, innately born with godly strength. He then pointed to the large man. Luan Tooth, 3rd level of chi condensation, capable of communicating with ferocious beasts. Most of the wild dogs you see at the campsite are her spies. Finally, he indicated the archer, Cross, Great circle of 4th level of Qi condensation. A person unmatched by anyone within the same realm. Captain Lei's gaze then settled on Xu Qing. Kid, 2nd level of body refinement. At this, all 3 of the assembled experts grew noticeably serious. Their expressions tightening. Xu Qing listened carefully, taking mental notes. Eat first. We will talk as we eat. Captain Lei instructed simply, picking up a piece of meat and beginning to chew. He continued to speak, his words clear and deliberate. I called you all back because this year's spring harvest has been brought forward. The camp leader issued a mission regarding the 7-leaf grass. Apart from the standard purchase price, the team with the highest harvest will receive 3 clear dust pills. Their effect far exceeds that of the white pill. We can start harvesting in advance from the piece of land we secured in the Forbidden Zone. What are your thoughts? A glimmer of interest appeared in Barbaric Ghost's and the other 2's eyes. And after a brief exchange of looks, they nodded in agreement. Xu Qing had never heard of clear dust pills before, but he understood from Captain Lei's words that their effects were significantly superior to the white pills he currently possessed. Since all of you agree, we will prepare. The kid will join us on our trip into the Forbidden Zone. Captain Lei said slowly, eyes scanning the group. The 3 team members exchanged glances, a hint of concern crossing their faces. Cross frowned slightly. Leader, the 2nd level of body refinement is too weak. It will be inappropriate for us to watch over him while completing the mission. There is a first for everyone. Captain Lei replied calmly, sweeping his gaze past Cross to Xu Qing. Kid, decide for yourself. I can do it, Xu Qing said firmly. He still had 5 white pills in his possession. While he did not have an immediate need for them, he understood that to survive within the scavenger campsite and learn effectively, entering the Forbidden Zone under the guidance of such experienced fighters was a necessary risk. Cross fell silent, conceding the matter. Captain Lei concluded the discussion. Once you are done eating, we will disperse. Tomorrow morning, we gather here and set off. After finishing his meal, Xu Qing excused himself quietly, retreating to his room. He had always been cautious around strangers, a habit that served him well. The night passed without incident. Preparatory work for Xu Qing was minimal, and his efficiency meant he could complete any necessary tasks with remarkable speed. The following morning, the group of 5 set out under Captain Lei's lead. The sky was a brilliant azure, sunlight bathing the campsite. A lone eagle circled overhead, its sharp eyes following the group's movements. Their figures drew the attention of scavengers and newly arrived carriage parties alike, especially due to the imposing stature of Barbaric Ghost and the striking figure of Luan Tooth. Xu Qing's curiosity was piqued as he observed the newcomers. Luan Tooth leaned closer and explained, I heard last night that these carriages came from Purple Earth. There is a doctor among them, reputed to have exceptional skill. Yesterday, he healed an old man, lame jackal, which drew many people to queue for his services. Barbaric Ghost muttered enviously, and Xu Qing's gaze hardened. In that moment, even their eyes, normally calm, sharpened in reaction. The group ahead drew their attention, a team of 7 or 8 scavengers. Both men and women, radiating a savage, feral energy. Among them was an old man, likely the captain. His hair was disheveled, and his eyes glimmered with bloodlust. He sat atop a stray dog, gnawing on its leg raw, the air around him pulsating with unchecked spirit energy. Xu Qing squinted at the violent display, instinctively shielding the glint in his eyes. Luan Tooth's expression turned fierce with rage. That dog belonged to her, and now its corpse had been desecrated. The Bloodshadow Team captain's gaze fell upon her. His grin was cruel, and his voice carried a chilling threat as he spoke. Little coquettish hussy, the quality of your dog's flesh is not bad. I wonder what the flesh of your body will taste like. Faced with the Bloodshadow's challenge, the killing intent in Luan Tooth's gaze grew even more intense. She then looked at Captain Lei. Captain Lei remained calm, his expression as composed as ever, showing no sign of agitation. He simply spoke, Cross. At once, the young archer known as Cross picked up his bow without a single word. His movements were lightning fast, drawing the bowstring with precision. A sharp whistle cut through the air, and his arrow shot forward like a streak of lightning. In the blink of an eye, the arrow pierced through the eagle that had been circling overhead. The force of the shot precise and devastating. The eagle let out a piercing, agonized cry as blood burst from its body. It crashed violently to the ground between the two teams. At the same time, one member of the Bloodshadow team convulsed violently, spitting a mouthful of blood. His complexion turned pale almost instantly. The eagle he controlled was no ordinary bird. He had infused it with his spirit energy, making it an extension of his own body. The backlash from the arrow had caused him severe injury. Rage flared across the Bloodshadow team. But before anyone could react, the Bloodshadow team captain raised a hand, stopping them. Slowly, deliberately, he rose from atop the dog's corpse he had been sitting on, his cold gaze locking on Captain Lei, ignoring Luan Tooth entirely. Captain Lei met his stare without flinching, the tension between them thick in the air. They remained locked in a silent battle of wills, each exuding their own formidable aura, until both finally let out measured, cold snorts. "Let's go," Captain Lei said calmly, turning and continuing forward. Luan Tooth and the rest of the team followed behind him. Xu Qing moved among them, acutely aware of the palpable hostility left behind. He glanced back at the Bloodshadow team, noticing their impatience as they searched for Horse 4 and Fat Mountain, two people who would never appear again. Silently, he withdrew his gaze and focused on the path ahead. Though the Forbidden Zone was not very far from the campsite, it still required some time to reach on foot. They walked steadily, the sounds of the world outside slowly fading as they approached the jungle. After over an hour of walking, the dense, pitch-black foliage of the Forbidden Zone appeared in the distance. From the outside, the jungle seemed endless, stretching as far as the eye could see. Shrouded in an ominous aura, the sun shone fiercely overhead. Yet the Forbidden Zone felt entirely different, almost like a world apart. Xu Qing noticed the gathering tempest in the sky above the jungle. Lightning cracked and split the dark clouds, the bolts glaringly bright, illuminating the jagged treetops. The sight alone evoked a deep sense of danger and mystery. Xu Qing quietly followed the team, noting how the members moved in near-perfect silence. Yet he could feel the gradual tension in their muscles, a growing alertness as they neared the Forbidden Zone. He felt it too, a cold awareness creeping over his body, a shiver running down his spine as he realized they were stepping into a place where warmth and comfort did not exist. The Forbidden Zone seemed to strip away the familiar world. Every detail he could remember from ordinary life felt muted, replaced by a strange, chilling presence. Memories of abandoned city ruins, of blood-soaked streets and crumbling structures, resurfaced involuntarily. Xu Qing instinctively gripped his iron stick tightly, preparing himself as if he were back in those deadly ruins. Yet the jungle here was different. There were no collapsing walls or paved roads, but twisted, warped trees loomed overhead, their branches contorted into grotesque shapes that resembled claws and teeth, blotting out the sky. The muddy ground beneath their feet was loose and treacherous, as if pulled from the bowels of hell itself. Despite the threatening environment, the Thunder Team moved with practiced familiarity. Each step was measured, deliberate. Some areas seemed safe, but they leapt over them. Other areas appeared hazardous, yet they walked through confidently. Xu Qing paid close attention, striving to memorize every detail. He also noticed that leadership rotated during the march. Captain Lei did not always lead. Sometimes it was Barbaric Ghost, other times Luan Tooth. Though their pace was not fast, their movements were efficient and safe. Occasionally, distant roars of ferocious beasts reminded Xu Qing of the lurking dangers. When venomous bugs appeared along the path, Luan Tooth simply lit a small incense stick. The bugs dispersed immediately, respecting her command and the subtle effects of her poison techniques. 2 hours passed without a word spoken. Finally, the team stopped beside a muddy area rich in silt. Relief seemed to settle over them for a brief moment. Xu Qing observed as Luan Tooth retrieved medicinal powder, sprinkling it into the mud. Venomous insects emerged immediately, drawn by the disturbance. She calmly scattered another type of powder, and the bugs fled in disarray. The muddy area then became safe. Following the lead of the more experienced team members, everyone squatted down, covering themselves in the silt with practiced ease. Captain Lei gestured for Xu Qing to do the same. "Did you remember the details on the way here?" he asked. Spreading the mud over his own body, Xu Qing nodded, moving quickly to follow their example. He observed Luan Tooth closely, noticing her subtle expertise in poison techniques. Captain Lei explained as they worked. "The reason we leapt over certain areas is that the leaves were intact yet decomposed. This indicates that no ferocious beasts passed by and that unknown hazards may exist. The areas we walked through had the droppings of creatures. Animals instinctively excrete in safe areas, so it is an indication that they are not dangerous or mud traps that could engulf a human. The detours we made were guided by Barbaric Ghost's keen sense of smell. He detected the scent of dangerous mutated beasts. Pay attention, you will learn much on this journey." Barbaric Ghost glanced at Xu Qing and bared his teeth in a friendly, yet intimidating, smile. Captain Lei continued, "As for this silt, our team discovered it many years ago. It contains the shed skins of night lizards. Covering ourselves with it masks our scent and instills a degree of fear in other creatures. The place we are headed lies further ahead. To the north is the venomous dragon swamp. The Forbidden Zone jungle has been divided into distinct areas by the scavengers. The venomous dragon swamp is one of them. But this time around, we aren't going there." As Captain Lei said all these, he had covered his entire body with the silt. Xu Qing was also done. When he got up, Cross, who walked past him, despite doubting whether it was a good decision for Xu Qing to tag along with them earlier, still chose to speak out, albeit with an indifferent expression. "Pay more attention to your mutation points," Cross said calmly. "The density of anomalous substances in the Forbidden Zone is very high. You must constantly monitor them. If the mutation surpasses your limit, no one can save you." Xu Qing nodded, already aware of the danger. He could feel the concentration of anomalous substances pressing against his body. Although the intensity here was weaker than in the city ruins, his body had already accumulated a considerable amount. Even without cultivating, the mutation points in his arm sent a faint, piercing pain through him with every breath. To mitigate this, he took out a white pill, placing it in his mouth to let it dissolve slowly, carefully regulating the influx of energy. Soon, everyone had finished covering themselves with the silt. They checked one another, confirming readiness, and proceeded forward. The atmosphere shifted, their pace slowed significantly, and each member kept their weapons at the ready. Xu Qing observed the variety of arms. Barbaric Ghost carried a finesteel shield and a massive mace. Captain Lei relied solely on his boxing gloves. Cross's longbow remained taut and ready, and Luan Tooth brandished a serrated dagger that gleamed with deadly precision. Xu Qing's mind wandered briefly to his own iron stick, an ordinary treasure compared to the Thunder Team's advanced weapons. In his recent excursions tailing Fat Mountain, his sharp hearing had allowed him to pick up valuable intelligence. Weapons in this world were divided into three classes: magic treasures, runic treasures, and ordinary treasures. Magic treasures were legendary and nearly irreplaceable, their inherent anomalous substances intensifying with use. Runic treasures were rare but more accessible, while ordinary treasures, like Xu Qing's iron stick, were common yet still effective. As they ventured deeper into the Forbidden Zone, Xu Qing noted how smoothly the team handled minor threats. Barbaric Ghost could deal with small mutated creatures effortlessly. When stronger beasts appeared, Cross's arrows flew with precision. Luan Tooth's attacks, though subtle, had an intimidating effect. Her spells seemed to temporarily paralyze even the most agile predators. Xu Qing himself contributed when a venomous snake lunged from the underbrush. He crushed it with his bare hands, earning a brief, approving nod from Cross. From that moment, Cross judged him less harshly and even began sharing tactical knowledge. "Kid, this Forbidden Zone may appear dangerous, but for veterans like us, 3 types of situations are the real threats," Cross explained as they advanced. Xu Qing listened intently, absorbing every detail. "The first is encountering unfamiliar mutated beasts from the depths moving outward. Our knowledge is limited to the outer edges, and such beasts from the depths are far more dangerous. One mistake and we could die. The second danger is a singing voice," Cross continued, his expression wary. There's a saying that anyone who hears it does not survive. In our team, only Captain Lei has ever encountered it. Xu Qing's eyes flicked to Captain Lei, who did not answer but stared thoughtfully into the depths of the forbidden zone. Luan Tooth then spoke, smiling slightly at Xu Qing. The third danger is labyrinth fog. It blinds and disorients. If one cannot find their way out, the anomalous substances in their body rise rapidly, often signaling impending death. Fire can temporarily disperse the fog, and those with strong mental energy can navigate it safely. But such individuals are exceedingly rare. Barbaric Ghost added gravely, there is a fourth danger: sneak attacks from hostile enemies. Before Luan Tooth could elaborate, Captain Lei's eyes narrowed. A low, commanding bellow escaped his throat. Quiet. Immediately, the team tensed. Cross drew his bow. Luan Tooth's eyes glimmered with a lethal edge, and Barbaric Ghost's muscles coiled like steel springs. Xu Qing felt his hair stand on end. A palpable sense of danger radiated from the black jungle in the distance. Then, pairs of cold, gleaming eyes appeared in the shadows. One by one, huge wolves emerged. They were monstrous, each the size of a water buffalo, their bodies covered in black scales. At least several dozen approached, and the faint glimmer of more eyes suggested the pack's numbers could be in the hundreds. Sensing their energy levels, which radiated around the second level of Qi, the Thunder Team's expressions shifted. Cross's pupils narrowed sharply, and Luan Tooth's face paled slightly. Though a single black-scaled wolf might not be formidable, a pack this size, combined with the high density of anomalous substances in the area, posed a severe threat. Any prolonged exertion of their spirit energy risked accelerating their mutation points dangerously. Xu Qing's breathing quickened under the immense pressure. You guys, retreat first. I will stay here and hold them off, Captain Lei said, his voice calm but resonant with authority. He stepped forward slowly, exuding a spirit energy that was immediately palpable. It far surpassed Cross's, radiating outward in waves that caused the wolves to pause mid-step. Their cold, indifferent eyes fixated solely on Captain Lei. At this moment, a spirit energy wave that surpassed Cross's by at least a fold erupted as Captain Lei stepped forward. The wolf pack also paused in their footsteps, all of them staring at Captain Lei. Let's go. Cross's gaze swept across the Thunder Team and backed off decisively. Luan Tooth and Barbaric Ghost, who were next to him, also retreated rapidly. Xu Qing narrowed his eyes, carefully observing Captain Lei as he strode toward the wolf pack. Every inch of Captain Lei's body radiated spirit energy, creating an overwhelming aura that immediately intimidated the wolves. Xu Qing did not move from his position, though his grip on the iron stick tightened. A faint glimmer of cold light flickered at the tip as he prepared himself. Kid, do you know why Captain Lei is the captain? Cross's voice echoed from a distance after he leapt away, retreating to a safe vantage. Xu Qing listened closely. It's not just because Captain Lei's 6th level of Qi condensation cultivation realm surpasses ours. It's also because of his ability to assume responsibility and make decisive judgments in the face of danger. At that moment, a loud boom shook the forest. A massive tree, 200 zhongs away, cracked under the force of Cross's arrow and crashed to the ground. Barbaric Ghost and Luan Tooth followed suit, toppling large trees to form a makeshift barrier. They left a narrow space, an entryway, through which the team could maneuver, and then sprinted forward. Barbaric Ghost remained, a mountain-like figure, shield and mace in hand, guarding the narrow passage. He was the second line of defense, holding the wolves at bay. Xu Qing quickly understood the plan and moved to the opening behind Barbaric Ghost. Captain Lei surged into the wolf pack. Every strike he made with his hands released a dazzling force, tearing through the wolves' flesh. Blood and bone shattered with every impact. Yet the pack was enormous. And soon, Captain Lei's figure was engulfed in the mass of black-scaled wolves. Explosions of power and the wolves' howls echoed through the jungle. From a distance, Cross let out a low, commanding bellow. Kid, come over and meet up with us. There'll be a time for you to fight. Xu Qing understood the Thunder Team's strategy. He ran toward Barbaric Ghost, who grinned, motioning him to the entryway. Xu Qing dashed through it, following Cross and Luan Tooth. Ahead, Luan Tooth worked swiftly. She cleared an area, arranging fallen trees as barriers and scattering powders along the edges. With a swift bite, she drew a diagram on the ground in her own blood, a set of markings only she could understand. Her gaze urged Xu Qing forward, silently directing him without words. Xu Qing moved quickly, keeping pace until he was 200 zhongs behind Luan Tooth. From there, he saw Cross crouched atop a massive tree, surveying the battlefield. The vantage point offered him complete vision of the surrounding chaos. Cross's voice, low and deep, carried through the trees. "You'll take charge of the area beyond 200 zhongs behind me." Xu Qing nodded gravely, understanding his responsibility in the Thunder Team's battle plan. He moved into position and hid beneath a shrub, completely immobile, much like he had done during his hunting in the city ruins. A sudden explosion echoed nearby, the clash of combat raging just out of his sight. Captain Lei's figure emerged from the wolf pack, 800 zhongs away. Even with his 6th level of qi condensation, he showed signs of strain. But his mastery of spirit energy allowed him to conserve half for the continuation of the battle. He retreated toward Barbaric Ghost, chased by relentless black-scaled wolves. Barbaric Ghost, like a living mountain, swung his mace with terrifying force, striking the pursuing wolves. At the same time, Cross loosed a volley of spirit energy arrows from his elevated position. Each arrow whistled sharply, striking with precision to slow the advancing pack. Captain Lei eventually reached Luan Tooth, the first line of defense having successfully delayed the wolves. Barbaric Ghost continued to hold the middle, blocking the majority of attacks. Xu Qing watched intently from his concealed position, taking in every movement. Captain Lei paused 200 zhongs ahead, cross-legged, swallowing a white pill to meditate. He regained some control over his spirit energy, preparing for the next round of engagement. This was the Thunder Team's rotation strategy. Captain Lei would confront the wolves first. Barbaric Ghost would serve as the second line. Luan Tooth would continue once the others were fatigued, and Cross would provide aerial support and security. Xu Qing recognized the logic. The high density of anomalous substances in the Forbidden Zone meant prolonged exertion could trigger dangerous mutations. This rotation allowed each member to fight effectively while minimizing the risk to their bodies. He observed carefully. Barbaric Ghost moved with calculated force, maintaining his position as the pack surged. Luan Tooth, despite her small frame, fought with precision, conserving energy while maximizing damage. Cross, perched above, monitored the battlefield, releasing arrows at the most opportune moments. As time passed, fatigue began to show. Captain Lei and Cross bore the brunt of the exertion. The former faced the wolves head-on, eliminating them while buying time for the team. The latter not only contributed to the fight but ensured the safety of retreating teammates from his elevated position. Coordination, trust, and precise timing were everything. Xu Qing's gaze hardened. This was the reality of scavenger teams in Forbidden Zones. A brutal but necessary rhythm of survival. He stayed hidden, observing each movement, understanding the weight of teamwork and strategy in life-and-death combat. Soon, Barbaric Ghost moved closer, still formidable despite visible exhaustion. Luan Tooth followed, clutching her chest, her face pale from fatigue. The last to pass by Xu Qing was Cross. His expression remained cold and composed. Yet Xu Qing sensed the depletion of his spirit energy. Behind him, the dense black-scaled wolf pack howled relentlessly, giving chase. When Cross passed Xu Qing, he hesitated slightly, a subtle indication of the strain he was under. His countenance was cold and appeared normal, but Xu Qing still sensed that Cross's spirit energy had almost depleted. The densely packed wolf pack howled and was giving chase behind him. When Cross passed Xu Qing by, he seemed a little hesitant. "I can do it." Xu Qing saw the other party's unspoken meaning and said in a deep voice. Cross didn't say anything and left. An instant later, the wolf pack came surging over. The wind whipped past Xu Qing's face, carrying with it a foul stench. The 10 wolves at the front had pitch-black bodies and crimson eyes that burned with unrestrained fury. The first cycle of the Thunder Team's battle had taken its toll on the pack. Bloodlust had been awakened, driving the wolves into a berserk frenzy. They charged with incredible speed, claws tearing through the soft earth. Xu Qing remained hidden, analyzing their approach with a calm yet icy gaze. The wolves had not noticed him yet, focused entirely on chasing Cross. Suddenly, a dagger shot through the air, with a sharp whistling sound. It pierced the forehead of the lead wolf, burying itself entirely. The wolf let out a deathly howl before collapsing, its body landing on the forest floor with a heavy thud. Xu Qing moved instantly, a streak of raven black iron flashing in the dappled sunlight. The tip of his iron stick pierced the eyes of a second wolf, penetrating its skull with precision. Before he could pause, a third wolf lunged at him from the side. Xu Qing swung with his left fist, crushing its head in a single, decisive blow. Blood splattered across his face and hands, yet his grip on the iron stick remained unshaken. Each strike was deliberate, every movement precise, as he carved a path through the wolf pack like a merciless specter. His agility was astounding. He moved through the pack with the speed and ferocity of a rakshasa. Each action measured, lethal, and fluid. Wolves fell around him in agonizing howls, their numbers dwindling as his eyes burned with a cold intensity. Blood coated his iron stick, staining it a deep crimson. And yet he fought on. Despite his skill, some wolves managed to slip past his attacks. Claws tore through his clothing. Teeth scratched his skin, leaving marks on his body. Yet the purple crystal he carried worked its terrifying magic. His injuries healed within breaths, even the deeper wounds ceasing to bleed. Stamina and endurance flowed back into his body as if he were untouched by exhaustion. Gradually, the area around him was littered with wolf corpses. His gaze hardened further, his figure a symbol of ruthlessness in the forest clearing. The sunlight filtering through the leaves struck his blood-soaked body, turning him into an almost mythical figure of crimson light. From 200 zhongs away, Captain Lei and Cross watched in stunned silence, witnessing the ferocity and determination of the young body refiner. "Kid, retreat!" Captain Lei's voice suddenly pierced through the chaos. Xu Qing knew he had expended a great portion of his spirit energy. Though his purple crystal healed his physical form and replenished stamina, spirit energy depletion remained, a danger he could not ignore. As a body refiner, he had a unique resilience. But even he was affected by the limits imposed by the dense anomalous substances in the area. He turned to withdraw, but a black-scaled wolf leapt at him, its eyes a disturbing mix of crimson and black. Xu Qing's iron stick responded instinctively, transforming into a deadly arc of blood that pierced the wolf's skull in a swift motion. As he prepared to continue retreating, Xu Qing noticed something strange under the mottled sunlight. The shadow of a fallen wolf seemed to distort unnaturally, stretching toward him across the ground. The sunlight was weak, filtering softly through the dense canopy, and for a moment, Xu Qing thought he was seeing an illusion. But as the shadow made contact with his body, a violent tremor ran through him. A sinister force, an evil intent, tried to invade his body. Cold and suffocating, threatening to overwhelm him entirely. In that critical instant, the purple crystal reacted, vibrating violently. It erupted with a sudden, cold stream. The malevolent force dissipated immediately, the sensation of invasion vanishing as though it had been absorbed. The cold stream vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving the crystal inert once more. Xu Qing froze, shocked, but he had no time to dwell on the phenomenon. After his brief pause, Xu Qing resumed his retreat. Captain Lei arrived at a measured pace, his eyes betraying a mixture of astonishment and approval. "You've done well. Go to the back and rest." Captain Lei's voice was firm. The black-scaled wolves are creatures of the Forbidden Zone's depths. They prefer areas dense with anomalous substances. The outer regions, where we are less favorable for them. They will leave if they cannot prevail after a prolonged engagement. With that, Captain Lei surged forward again, spirit energy blazing as he charged the pursuing wolves. Barbaric Ghost also arrived swiftly. Having waited at the rear in anticipation, he inhaled sharply at the sight of Xu Qing, bloodied and standing amidst the fallen wolves. "I'm fine," Xu Qing said firmly, refusing help, instead focusing his attention on Captain Lei's movements. He continued retreating under the watchful, respectful eyes of barbaric ghost and Luan-tooth, catching sight of him, revealed a brief look of shock before tossing a leather pouch toward him. Xu Qing caught it, feeling the alchemy pills inside, and nodded in gratitude. He then pressed on until he reached Cross, who watched silently from his vantage point. Cross acknowledged him with a slight nod, recognition evident in his gaze. Xu Qing returned a quiet gesture of understanding. Finally reaching the rear, Xu Qing found a secluded spot to sit. He exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he had been holding and swallowed 3 white pills. As the alchemy dissolved, he absorbed surrounding spirit energy, replenishing himself gradually. Time passed, and after an hour, he opened his eyes, his mental fatigue lessened but perplexity lingering. Examining the anomalous substances within him, Xu Qing noticed something impossible. Rolling up the sleeve of his left arm, he realized with shock that one mutation point had vanished. Despite having exerted himself fully, despite the deadly battle, his cultivation realm, still at the 2nd level of body refinement, seemed strengthened rather than weakened. He recalled the battle, the pain from his mutation points, and the passive absorption of spirit energy during the slaughter. The effects of the white pills alone could not explain this. Only one event differed from the normal course. The purple crystal had erupted, releasing a sudden cold stream at the moment the shadow attacked. Shadow, evil intent, crystal erupting cold stream, Xu Qing murmured, narrowing his eyes in thought. The scene replayed vividly in his mind. He was certain he had not been imagining the shadow, nor was it an illusion caused by the scattered sunlight. At that moment, the evil intent had been forcibly washed off and absorbed into the crystal. Therefore, he carefully thought back on the scene of the crystal erupting with a cold stream. It was as if at that instant, the evil intent that attacked him was washed off and absorbed into the crystal. Was it eaten up? Xu Qing guessed, feeling a little surprise. In this episode, we saw Xu Qing joining the Thunder Team as they ventured into the dangerous Forbidden Zone. From the very start, tensions were high between the Thunder Team and the Bloodshadow Team, revealing the ruthless dynamics of scavengers in this world. Xu Qing observed their skills, learned about the threats of anomalous substances, and discovered the careful strategies the team used to survive. As they moved deeper, the team faced deadly black-scaled wolves, testing their coordination, courage, and resourcefulness. Xu Qing proved his own strength and adaptability, using his iron stick and the mysterious power of the purple crystal to overcome deadly attacks, while also learning more about his evolving abilities. Along the way, we saw the importance of trust, teamwork, and careful planning in a world filled with unknown dangers, from labyrinth fog to malicious beasts and hostile enemies. What happens next? Stay tuned for the next episode of Outside of Time. If you enjoyed this episode or found it exciting, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to get notifications for the latest adventures of Xu Qing. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.